Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast episode 65. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce, and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been studying this for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I share stories, lessons, and insights about people having success in Africa. Why did I create this podcast? Because I have a vision for Africa. I have a vision of Africa becoming a middle-income continent by 2030 and a high-income continent by the year 2040. And for that to happen, I need you and every other African watching or listening to this podcast to become successful. So, if you want to be successful in Africa, I encourage you to like and subscribe to this podcast. This episode is brought to you courtesy of BCA Online, the one-stop shop for mastering leadership. Joining BCA Online is free, and it gives you access to countless hours of knowledge, videos, and a plethora of information about leadership that will enhance your leadership capacity. If you have questions that you want me to answer after watching this video, just log on to BCA Online, the link is on the screen, and post your questions there. That is where I will respond to your questions. In today's episode, I am profiling an entrepreneur who offers so many lessons on how to be successful in Africa that, frankly, I was tempted to divide this into 2 episodes. But I've kept it on one. His name is Hassan Bashir, and he's the founder of not 1, not 2, but 3 successful companies, 2 of which are multinationals. He is the founder of Takaful Insurance of Africa, a Sharia-compliant insurance company, and also Soliton Telmec, a large company in the ICT industry, and Zawan Insurance Brokers. Now, Bashir's life journey, especially his early life, was anything but regular. He was born in rural Kenya to a poor family, and he started school much later than most Kenyans, at age 8. And after he finally finished primary school, he had to stop because his family didn't have the money to send him to secondary school. So what did he do? He worked in construction. He worked construction jobs for 8 years, becoming an expert builder and surveyor. And he earned enough money and then decided to further his education with his own money. So he enrolled in a preparatory school and studied for himself for his secondary school exams, paying his own way. He passed the exams because he was a voracious reader and an avid learner. He then enrolled in the USIU Africa University, that's the United States International University in Africa, in Nairobi. And at the beginning, he only had enough money to pay for the first 3 semesters. But Mr. Bashir was not deterred. He just carried on studying, and while he was at the university, he talked his way into becoming a resident assistant at the university, a position which came with a stipend and with some support for tuition, and that then turned into a bigger and more permanent job, which he worked throughout till he graduated. At the time that he graduated, I think this was 1996, there was quite a bit of political turmoil in Kenya. Unemployment was high, and also there was a civil war in Somalia, and so there were a lot of Somalian refugees flooding into Kenya. Lots of youth were trying to just get out of the country. That was their number 1 objective. In the case of Bashir, he had no intention of leaving. He wanted to stay in Kenya, and he wanted to do business in Kenya and be successful in Kenya. Why business? Because his education at USIU kindled that spirit in him and that desire to run his own business. So he knew it well enough that he didn't have all the resources and the know-how to do it by himself. He partnered with a friend to start an insurance brokerage business. And they called it Zawam Insurance Brokers. They registered the business, paid the license fee, and then he had to drum up business for this business. So what did he do? Bashir didn't have a lot of money. In fact, the license fee was money that he had to borrow in order to pay it. So he designed a letterhead on his computer, used a bit of his marketing knowledge, created sample letters, introductory letters. Then he found a Nairobi Yellow Pages book directory, which wasn't attached to the telephone booth. He took that one, got a list of 1,500 businesses listed in the directory. He wrote letters to every single one of them. He went from building to building, floor to floor, hand-delivered each of those letters and asked for business. It was painstaking work. For the first 3 months, he got nothing. All rejections. Not a single customer. However, Bashir kept persisting. He would visit them, then he would revisit them until they came to know him. And eventually, a few would give him an opportunity. After the first 3 months where he got nothing, the next 6 months, he was able to get 60 customers. Within 5 years, this company, this insurance brokerage, was employing 16 people. And it was a respected insurer. Why? Because Bashir always kept his word to his customers. In fact, his networking and selling skills and his trustworthiness resulted in him actually being voted as the treasurer of the Association of Insurance Brokers of Kenya. With all this initial success, though, he still wanted to expand his knowledge. He enrolled in an MBA program at the same USIU, Africa, and during this program, he became an avid student of consumer behavior. He really got deep into that research. And those studies led him to discover that there was a niche in the insurance market where he was playing that was yet untapped. And that niche was Sharia compliant insurance. You see, many Muslims in Kenya were insured, but they were not happy or comfortable with the insurance providers that they were insured with. Why? Because these insurance providers were not really Sharia compliant. They were not compliant with Islamic law. You see, Sharia compliant insurance is based on a system in which the members' contributions are pooled and invested, and then claims are paid from this type of fund or a mutual fund. They're different from regular insurance, where in regular insurance, the clients pay the premiums directly to the insurer. The insurer essentially invests the money, does whatever they want with it, makes a profit off of that. In Islamic insurance, it's really a non-profit. It's a fund that remains the property of the members. And the insurance company that administers it really just receives an administrative fee. Now, Bashir decided this is a good niche to cover. Unfortunately, he was the only one that thought it was a good niche. He was rebuffed in his first few attempts to find partners to start this kind of insurance company, or frankly, to find funds for it. So after a little while, he decided, you know what, maybe the timing is not right. He never gave up on his dream, but he pivoted to start an ICT firm. And this business was called Soliton Telmec. He found a partner, recognized the need that was more immediate, and leveraged his strengths as a networker and a business developer to build up this new company called Soliton Telmec. The business basically was providing telecoms infrastructure and also network integration services. He tapped into the growing telecoms and ICT industry in Kenya, and the company grew. The company then grew out of Kenya into Uganda and also into Djibouti. Successful. But Bashir never forgot his dream about a Sharia-compliant insurance company. Throughout the next few years, he tried pitching it to others. He even had one insurance company where the CEO was ready to do this. But then when they took it to the board said, no, we're not ready for it. Eventually, Bashir's own partner in Soliton Telmec said to him, hey, buddy, just start your own. Just start it. You want to do this. What is it going to take? And so Bashir told him. And the partner said, let's do it. So, with the backing of Soliton, this new insurance company, Takaful Insurance of Africa, was born. Now, starting your own insurance company was quite a bit of an undertaking because, Takaful had to get the license to become an actual insurance company, not just a broker. But with the help of this partner, with the backing of Soliton, this company was born. When they got their license in 2011, from that point on, Takaful Insurance of Africa grew exponentially. Why? Because the Muslims flocked to the business. The combination of Bashir's own reputation and his good name with the fact that this was Sharia compliant and he could be trusted to keep it Sharia compliant meant that he got customers, lots of them. Now, let me make it clear. Takaful Insurance is not limited to only Muslim customers. They are open to both Muslim and non-Muslim. But the reality is most of their customers are Muslim customers. Why? Because the principles of Takaful align with their customers' behavioral patterns, consumer behavior. And throughout this journey of Takaful expanding, which by the way, it is now in multiple countries in East Africa, Bashir has always kept his word with his customers. He's always focused on the long term, never chasing the short-term money, but being true to his vision. And that's one of the big reasons why he is a success in Africa. So, let me just summarize with 3 key lessons that I think we can take away. I suspect you might have a few others based on what I've shared. But let me summarize 3 things that I believe any of you who want to be successful in Africa can learn from the journey of Hassan Bashir. Number 1, learn the lesson of door knocking. You see, Hassan entered an industry which frankly didn't know him. It's not like his father was a CEO of insurance. He didn't go to school for it, and yet he made himself a household name in the industry and amongst his customer base. How did he do it? By simply outworking and outwalking and out-knocking his competition. He knocked on doors. He understood that customers do not fall out of the sky and onto a business's doorstep. And you as the founder have to go out there and find them. He leveraged resources that were available to him. In his case, it was just a phone book, a computer, a logo, and a bit of his own marketing knowledge, and leverage that to find customers. He didn't sit there complaining about how hard it was to find customers and how people just didn't want to give him business because he was a poor Kenyan. He didn't sit expectantly waiting for some NGO to give him a grant to start his business. He knocked on doors. He put himself out there. He refused to be discouraged by the initial lack of success. He understood that he was planting seeds that would lead to success, and they sure did. Because eventually, the doors that started off being closed to him started to open. That's lesson number one. The lesson of door knocking. Lesson number two, the lesson of partnership and trustworthiness. You see, it's possible to not notice in this story how Hassan made sure he always partnered with others to get the businesses started. And in the process of partnering, he made sure that he found people who had similar values to him. And he lived up to his end of the bargain with his partners. His word was and continues to be his bond. And this is what has endeared him to business partners, to customers, to suppliers, to bankers, and to his own employees. Even when times were rough and money was tight, and he did go through some rough times, his word was his bond. He developed such a trustworthy reputation that, frankly, customers and clients would simply take him at his word. If Bashir says it's good, I'm in. This is the basis on which he was able to build 2 multinational businesses. That's the second lesson, the lesson of partnership and trustworthiness. The third lesson is the lesson of consumer behavior. Perhaps it's because of his experience of doing door-to-door sales. Perhaps maybe it was because of his experience at facing rejection. Or maybe it was because of his natural curiosity and appetite for learning. Whatever the reason, Hassan Bashir is a student of people and behavior and a keen observer of consumer behavior. And it is around that observation of consumer behavior that he has built his business. It sounds a little obvious. In fact, it sounds so obvious that it may be easy to miss it, okay? But the foundation of every successful business is a plethora of customers and potential customers that demand and desire that business's services or products because those services or products meet their needs. You see, because these needs may change, and frankly, they do change, the successful business leader or founder must keep her or his nose to the ground to sense when the consumer's behaviors are changing. In other words, when their needs are changing or their needs are not being fully met. The fact that a consumer or customer is using a particular product or service does not mean that they are 100% satisfied with it. And Bashir has a knack for studying, observing, and understanding the consumer's behaviors, their unmet needs, and going after that to build a business. That's the third lesson, the lesson of consumer behavior. So that's 3 lessons, 3 big ones to learn from Hassan Bashir's journey to creating 2 multinational companies. Number 1, knock on doors. Number 2, keep your promises. Number 3, study the consumer's behavior for clues about what they need. Follow these lessons, and you too can transform your business idea, your small business, into a multinational, successful business. We've now come to the end of today's episode. I do hope you've learned a bit more about becoming a success in Africa. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like the video. Tell your friends about it, because together we can transform our beloved continent of Africa. See you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.